Hello, lovelies. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to tell you the story of the first time that I met and wrote with the legendary Dean Dillon. If you don't know who Dean Dillon is, you need to use your search engine on your computer. You just need to stop this, pause it, and go look up Dean Dillon. Probably every George Strait song that you love was Dean Dillon. He was an artist, but never could quite hit as an artist. And they started giving his songs to George Strait, and George Strait became a megastar, and they both got very wealthy because of Dean Dillon's songs. Now, Dean Dillon is not a big fella. He's about my size, maybe just a little bigger, not much. He's a little bitty guy. But he was a wild cat, raging alcoholic, cocaine, everything. And he also had no filter on his mouth. So he did not, if a record label hooked him up with somebody that couldn't write, he would just tell them, "You suck," and he would leave. I love that. I wish I had that kind of guts sometimes. Let me see. I'll tell you a couple stories. One of them was this artist came in, and Dean was hung over and had his baseball cap sitting on top of his head. He's laid on the couch. The guy comes in, walks in with a guitar, and Dean never acknowledges him. He's laying there with a hat over his face. And he says, "Hey, Mr. Dillon, I'm here, nice to see you." And Dean said, "Yeah." So he let him know that he was awake. And he says, basically he just says, "What you got?" It wasn't no "How you doing? Are you married? You got kids?" He didn't give a shit. He was hungover. "What you got?" So the kid starts playing the guitar and playing this little ditty, no, no, no. There's a long, uncomfortable pause. And then Dean said, "What else you got?" So the kid played, "Well, I've been working on this one little thing," and he plays another song. There's a long, uncomfortable pause, and then there's a kind of a grunt. He goes, "What else you got?" And after about the third or fourth try, Dean says, "I tell you what, son, pack your guitar up. Go out there to the front desk and get one of my CDs from the lady up front. And when you can write something half as good as any one of them songs, you come back and see me." And that was that. The first time that Dean Dillon met Kenny Chesney, I have to be careful with this one because I don't want to make anybody mad. But actually, no. Kenny told this story at the BMI Awards, so we should be good. Kenny told the story, so he admits it. But Dean is a chain smoker, and the record label reached out to Dean and said, "We'd love for you to write for this with this young guy. We think he's going to be a superstar." He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, does he write?" And they said, "Well, he writes a little bit, but that's why he needs help." He says, "If you send me some songs that he wrote by himself, and if I like any of that, I'll give him a chance." And there was a song called "Tin Man" that Kenny Chesney wrote, and Dean liked it enough to give Kenny a chance. So Kenny shows up late and scrambling, real hyper, nervous energy. It's nervous when you're going into the room with somebody with a reputation like Dean Dillon that's wrote some of the greatest songs in the world and is not afraid to tell you that you're awful. It's a stressful day. So Kenny pulls out his guitar and And he starts, playing. I've been working on this one thing. And Dean's over standing at the window with his back to him, just smoking a cigarette, and he hadn't said anything. Just smoking. And it made Kenny nervous. So rather than give Dean time to think, he just kept feeding more information. Well, and kept talking with that nervous energy. Hindsight, he probably should have stayed quiet for a little while and just give him some space. And after a while, Dean takes a big, long drag off a cigarette, and he turns around. It's the first time that he's even looked at him. They've been in there 10 minutes, and he had never even looked at him. He turns around and says, "Kenny, slow down, damn it. I'm trying to get down to your level, okay?" I'm trying to be as dumb as you, is basically what he was saying. That is a good story. Well, I wrote with Dean's daughter, and we hit it off, and she's a really good writer. And she went and she told him about me. So by the time that his daughter told him about me, my name had crossed his ears 2 or 3 times, so he was getting familiar with my name floating around town. Being a good writer, whatever I never did really believe that stuff, but I was thankful for people believing when I couldn't. That's another story. I was nervous. I was nervous as shit. And I called my friend Jeremy Spielman, who was actually really good friends with Dean. And he said, "Man, them stories you heard, he's gotten older now. He's calmed down. He's not drinking anymore. So he's not going to be that guy. So you ain't got nothing to worry about." Plus, this is Jeremy's opinion. He said, "I think, Dean, if you're really trying, I think he respects that. He just doesn't like people just kind of half-assing anything, because to him songwriting is important, and it's an art, and it's important to him." And I said, "Well, that's fair enough, because I feel exactly the same way. It should be taken seriously, and it's worth struggling over, the craft. It's hard." So I drove way out to Springfield, Tennessee, out in the boonies, and I went to the front door of the house, and his wife greeted me, and she was just such a lovely soul, such a wonderful person. She said, "Oh, he's out in the back. You got to get back on the road and drive down and go back to that big workshop in the back." He had a car garage. Dean loves working on cars. He had a couple of cars back there that he had been working on. Had old vintage oil cans and car parts. It was really cool. And he could smoke out there. And his wife didn't like him smoking in the house, so he just went out there to do man shit. So I walked in, and he was sitting over there, and he didn't get up to greet me, and he didn't get up and shake my hand. None of that. He was just kind of sat there and just kind of looked at me, and I think he could tell I was nervous. And we did have a few pleasantries. We talked a little bit, which really helped ease my nerves, because I was nervous. I didn't want him to tell me to go buy one of the CDs from the girl at the front counter, kind of thing, or tell me he was trying to get down to my level. So there was a little, how long you lived here, how long you been in Nashville, blah blah blah, and then inevitably he says, "Well, you got anything you've been working on?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir. I've got two little pieces of parts here that I feel like could be something." And he said, "Well, let's hear it." And I had written this the night before, and I'm just going to read it to you. And I don't remember why the idea came up, but I had this stuck in my head somehow. And when that happens, I just write it down, and sometimes I'll have the idea a little more fleshed out where I can kind of see the video. Sometimes it's just the way that it sounds that intrigues me, and I don't really know what it is yet. It's just the bum, ba, ba, bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, ba, you know what I mean? Just the rhythm and the flow. Sometimes that intrigues me. So anyway, long story short, I said, my iPad's dying here. I said, it ain't the space between the bars that keeps the tiger in the cage. It ain't the kindness of a heart that turns a love into a rage. And that instant, and I do mean that instant, he smiled and he looked at me and he said, it's that switchblade tongue that you unleash, and once you turn it loose, it carves my soul to pieces till it ain't fit to use. And I went, my God, this man is a songwriter. Well, we obviously were both happy because we knew it was going to work, and then we started working on the song. I'm trying to convey to you that I said, it ain't the space between the bars that keeps the tiger in the cage. It ain't the kindness of a heart that turns a love into a rage. There was no space. There was no thinking about it. It literally, like he finished the thought and said, it's that switchblade tongue that you unleash, and once you turn it loose, it carves my soul to pieces till it ain't fit to use. Man, strong, strong, strong. So we had that. And then I said, well, let me play you this other little thing I have. And I said, I've got this thing about I'm sad and lonesome, down to the bone, son. You're the worst one I know of, can't let go of. And I don't know how, boy, hat with no cowboy. And that's, I had that little part. He said, man, I think that's the same song. And I went, really? He said, yeah. And so we put the two pieces that I walked in with together. And I'll be damned if they weren't a song. And we, if you know me or know of me, then you know that I toil and struggle over lyrics. Sometimes it takes a very long time, but I'm not going to let a syllable go by that's not right. And usually it is a minimum an all-day process, but quite often it can be 2 or 3 days. It can be, I've had some last as long as a year. I couldn't quite finish them, and they were just hiding back there waiting on one sentence or one, But we finished this whole song in about an hour and a half. Of course, now I did have, a portion of it done, which was a little bit of a kickstart. But anyway, that's it. There's my Dean Dillon story. I love him. He is a good friend, somebody that I can call right now and, just check on him, see how he's doing. He'll do the same with me. But anyway, that's my Dean Dillon story. And now, if you don't mind, I think I will play you that song. Well, we took it to the studio. I did a little guitar vocal of it, and then he had a bunch of songs that he'd been working on. We went to the studio, and I think he was doing 7 that day, and this was one of them, and he asked me to sing it. So, saddled up to leave.
It ain't the space between the bars that keeps a tiger in the cage. It ain't the kindness of a heart that turns a love into a rage. It's your switchblade tongue that you unleash, and once you turn it loose, it carves my soul to pieces till it ain't fit to use. It's not the picket fence that makes a house look like a home, and it's not the love we made that keeps me wishing I was gone. I'll never be somebody if I'm nothing in your eyes. All I am to you is everything that you despise. I'm sad and lonesome, down to the bone some. You're the worst one I know of. I can't let go of. I've been a don't know how boy, just a hat with no cowboy. But the horse that I rode in on is saddled up to leave. You can't say I didn't die trying to make it work. Seems like all my trying just made the whole thing worse. I'm sad and lonesome, down to the bone some. You're the worst one I know of. I can't let go of. I've been a don't know how boy, just a hat with no cowboy. But the horse that I rode in on is saddled up to leave. Yeah, the horse that I rode in on is saddled up to leave.
Saddled up to leave, ladies and gentlemen. My first Dean Dillon song we wrote many times after that, but I was thinking about that earlier and I thought I would share that experience with you. I hope you enjoyed it. And be sure and hit that subscribe button and tell your friends about my YouTube channel. And I'll come back and tell you a story soon. All right. Take care.